that brings a lot to bear when they enter their 40s and 50s because there's a lot of challenges. It's a tough time to navigate, but it's a time where you have the opportunity to sit back and to say, okay, who am I today and what do I want?
Welcome back. You're watching the Dr. Nandi Show. We've all had times when we feel life is running away from us. Today, we're grabbing it back. My next guest says women in particular are often so busy looking after their families, they lose track of who they are. And before they know it, their kids have flown the coop and they're left with a bad case of the empty nest syndrome. Please welcome someone who knows all about the next act for women, life coach and author, Hélène Stellian. Hélène, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Tell me all about it. What happened to your life and how you kind of felt like you were a people pleaser and life was different for you. Tell me all about what happened.
Well, I was a people pleaser, and
yes.
I think a lot of women learn growing up as young girls to take care of everybody else and not themselves, to follow the rules. So whether it's rules that are set by teachers, by parents, by other voices of authority, even by society. And I felt like I had to be not only good enough, but I wanted to do everything right. I wanted to be perfect, and then I would feel loved. I would feel accepted. I would feel, like I'm part of something beautiful and wonderful, and I really struggled with that. I thought, if only I can be pretty enough, if only I can be smart enough, I can be thin enough, I can be successful enough, then I'll get all those things. But of course, when you're a perfectionist, it's never enough. So I ended up anxious, anorexic, in a first marriage that was failing, and honestly in a career that wasn't right for me. I felt really lost. And
you could never really achieve your idea of perfection, could you? I mean, it's completely impossible.
And I just think just like you, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think we're all different that way. So for me, this is the way I coped with change and, adversity or transition is just by going in and just seeing, how can I do everything right so everything's going to be under control.
And women, too, are, in your opinion, more likely to have this happen. And also making life changes like you did. Why is it so hard for women to do this?
I actually think it's hard for everybody to make any major life change. I mean, we're all programmed in some way, especially if we've found our path, or we think we have, and we've started to go down that path. And the idea of changing something, even if we're not really happy with that path, is hard. It's like we're admitting that we failed in some way, right? So we just stick it out, even though we might be miserable. And I know I felt that way.
But I think, for guys like me, it's a little easier sometimes because, women have to be the career, if you have a career, you're a career woman, and then you've got kids, and then you've got to raise them, and then all of a sudden when the kids are gone, you have this void. I mean, there's so much to juggle. Whereas for men, a lot of men, they're just career bound and not much changes. And so I think it's especially hard for women. And you've got 2 grown daughters now, and they're facing these pressures. What do you tell them?
I really want them to have a voice. So I find it's really important for them to be authentic to who they are. And
Nice.
I'm so proud of both of them because they are very unusual kids, and they're 20 years old now, and they are pursuing their life's passions. And they have a lot of self-awareness that I know I didn't have as a young child, or even honestly in my 20s or 30s.
They didn't have you. You didn't have you.
Well, yes, right. And I didn't have me. And also our times have changed.
Yeah.
We're so much more aware, and there's so much more psychology and studies out there about how important it is to figure out who you are and bring that person out every day.
And living your authentic life. Women in their 40s and 50s, tell me about them and what's going on. I mean, their confidence and their ability to live their authentic life.
Well, women in their 40s and 50s, women in midlife, are amazingly confident. They are resilient, they are strong, they are wise. And it really comes from having lived a number of decades and struggled and worked through it. And that brings a lot to bear when they enter their 40s and 50s because there's a lot of challenges in those decades.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're talking about aging parents, so you're going to be maybe caregiving. You're talking about menopause and a lot of symptoms that can linger for a long time and be really difficult to bear. And then, yes, your kids are leaving, And as a result, you end up oftentimes having a bit of a crisis of identity. Certainly, if you've made being a mother a central part of who you are, as I did, and as a lot of women do, even when they
Sure.
work outside the home.
Absolutely.
So it's a tough time to navigate, but it's a time where you have the opportunity to sit back and to say, okay, who am I today and what do I want?
And you have the tools that you've had for the last 2 or 3 decades of living. So great stuff. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Partha Nandi. And if you enjoyed that video, you're going to love the next one. It's full of incredible information to help you start your health hero journey.